Should Christians celebrate Hanukkah? I know some people take serious issue to celebrating Jewish feasts, Jewish holidays, but I want to ask you, what did Jesus say when he preached a message on Hanukkah after he celebrated it? That's a good question, Charlie. I'm really glad you asked, and we're going to answer that today. But I'm joined by Charlie on my left. How's it going?
I'm doing great. I feel like the guy at ESPN that does the intros and the outtakes.
Yeah.
Welcome to Further Every Day.
Just absolutely zonked.
Yeah, my voice is like, it's...
There's something going along, so if you hear the cough drops slopping back and forth in our mouths, that's what's
it's
going
us.
on. Miss Nikki's not doing so well, so the chair of theology, she's not here. Philosophy, culture. We got politics downstream. How's it going, Steve?
Hey, doing fine, and my voice always sounds like this, so
There's no issue with you.
it always sounds like I've got a cold.
Yeah.
Oh, my, I love it.
But then we also have Ryan producing. How's it going, Ryan?
Good, except for this congestion.
Yeah, so apparently everyone's got it. It is what it is. But I do want to come back to the original topic at hand, Hanukkah. What is Hanukkah? How did we get Hanukkah, and where are we going today? We're saying, look, why shouldn't Christians celebrate Hanukkah? Well, to answer that question, why we should or should not, let's go ahead and take ourselves back to the 300s BC. And I want to set the table. And hopefully today, when you walk away from this, if you're not already familiar, if you're not someone who's, fluent in the Maccabees and you're not fluent in that part of history, hopefully you walk away today with a firmer understanding of what you okay there, Mr. Producer? That's squeaking?
That
was Steve. Okay. So hopefully you walk away with some squeaks in your ears. I'm sorry. But
He's trying to adjust.
I don't know. Put some grease on it.
You're good right there, Steve. Okay, so hopefully you walk away with, like I was saying, a better understanding of what's at the table for Herod and for the political situation that Jesus Christ actually was born into, and why Christ was looked at as a potential Messiah, but his version, God's version of a Messiah, did not line up with what we as man wanted. And his message on Hanukkah almost got him stoned. So let's go ahead, get into it, and hopefully we take away some good thoughts about Christ as light of the world. But back before Christ was born, before he was incarnate, 300 years before, first slide, Mr. Producer, in 332 BC, Alexander the Great. Yep, that's correct. Yep, and go to the next one. Go to the next one. Okay, by the end of the day, you should understand the general history of the 100s BC, the Maccabean Revolt, and Christ Hanukkah message. Go ahead and go one more. I'm getting ahead of myself. Thank you. I do that sometimes. Alexander the Great, 332 BC, was brought, he came in, he conquered Jerusalem with really after the siege of Tyre. Thank you, Mr. Producer. After the siege of Tyre, he came in and basically was welcomed in by the Jews because he had besieged Tyre for a few years. And when Alexander came, the Jews said, okay, we understand that this is going to happen. Let's just go ahead and open the gates and let this conqueror come in. He allowed self-governance. He allowed free religious expression, and he actually had this huge respect for the Jewish people. And I think that in of itself may well have been a miracle. In fact, Josephus wrote about this. And this is something that in digging, I came upon and I said, wow, this is really amazing. Josephus this is Josephus 329. Charlie's going to go ahead and read this for us. But this is the account of Alexander the Great coming in and how he was met by the high priest. So, Charlie, you got that for us?
Yep, I sure do. And if you give me just a half second, because I need to move something on
my
screen.
Go
there
ahead.
we go. All right, here we go. The Jews also did all together with one voice salute Alexander and encompass him about. Whereupon the kings of Syria and the rest were surprised at what Alexander had done and supposed him disordered in his mind. However, Parmenio alone went up to him and asked him how it came to pass that when all others adored him, he should adore the high priest of the Jews? To whom he replied, I did not adore him, but that God who hath honored him with his high priesthood. For I saw this very person in a dream, in this very habit, when I was at Dios in Macedonia, who, when I was considering with myself how I might obtain the dominion of Asia, exhorted me to make no delay, but boldly to pass over the sea thither, for that he would conduct my army, and would give me the dominion over the Persians. Whence it is that, having seen no other in that habit, and now seeing this person in it, and remembering that vision and the exhortation which I had in my dream, I believe that I bring this army under the divine conduct.
So pause for a second, and we're going to continue with what Josephus lays out here in just a moment. But let's rewind a little bit. Alexander the Great saw a vision of whom? The Jewish high priest.
I was going to say the high priest there.
So God apparently, supposedly, gave Alexander the Great this vision to move on Persia and beyond, and told him exactly how to go. In the Proverbs, it says that God moves the hearts of kings.
Has the
by
heart
waters.
has the heart of the king in his hand.
So that in of itself is fascinating. And this is all leading up to the Hanukkah story. But it's very, very fascinating. And so he continues on, and Josephus chronicles this, on how Alexander the Great was basically led to continue his conquest.
And where have we heard that? I mean, you don't.
It's rarely talked about.
Yeah, it really is. Very interesting.
So
Shall we continue?
Continue.
Okay.
Josephus 3:29, if you're at home.
And shall therewith conquer Darius, and destroy the power of the Persians, and that all things will succeed according to what is in my own mind. And when he had said this to Parmenio, and had given the high priest his right hand, the priests ran along by him, and he came into the city. And when he went up into the temple, he offered sacrifice to God, according to the high priest's direction, and magnificently treated both the high priest and the priests. And when the book of Daniel was showed him, wherein Daniel declared that one of the Greeks should destroy the empire of the Persians, he supposed that himself was the person intended. And he was then glad. He dismissed the multitude for the present. But the next day he called them to him, and bid them ask what favors they pleased of him, whereupon the high priest desired that they might enjoy the laws of their forefathers, and might pay no tribute on the 7th year. He granted all they desired. And when they entreated him, that he would permit the Jews in Babylon and Media to enjoy their own laws also, he willingly promised to do hereafter what they desired. And when he had said to the multitude that if any of them would enlist themselves in his army on this condition, that they should continue under the laws of their forefathers and live according to them, he was willing to take them with him. Many were ready to accompany him in his wars.
So what you have here is probably the single most favorable situation that Israel could have possibly had. And unfortunately, this led to, I believe, some complacency with the Jews. In fact, they even fell in love with Greek culture. And so they kind of veered away from God. But we'll kind of see the results of that in just a moment. But basically, Alexander the Great was this wonderful dictator in the sense of, yes, he was a conquering king, killed a lot of people. But when it comes to the case of Israel, he treated them Judea, he treated them very, very kindly, very kindly. To the point where they actually fell in love with Greek culture, and it kind of actually had the inverse effect. In some ways, it actually pulled people maybe a little bit away, or it lulled them so that they were able to kind of come away from the faith in some respects and regards. So Next cut, Mr. Producer, should be Alexander the Great's conquering of Jerusalem, and kind of the map that you have. You'll actually see that he kind of came down from Greece, down into Judea, over to Egypt, and then back out to Persia, and up into the Indus, up across, and then down through the Indus Valley and back to Greece. So Alexander dies suddenly in 323 BC with no heir. Some people say by sickness, some people say by assassination. We're not quite sure. His empire fractures in the wars of the Diadochi. He had several major generals, and ultimately these struggled for power. Ptolemy ended up with Egypt. Seleucus ended up with Babylon, Syria, Antigonius in Anatolia, and then Cassander in Macedon, and Lysimachus in Thrace. Now, next cut, Mr. Producer. Seleucus the first, Nicator, eventually defeats Antigonius at Ipsus in 301 BC, 20 years after the death of Caesar, 2 decades later. He gains Syria and Judea as part of this vast new Seleucid empire. And if you look, you'll see, if you're on visuals on Rumble, YouTube, or if you're one of the PSP livers, you'll see the green segment. It kind of veers down into that Judea, Samaria, and they take all of that. The Seleucids do. Thus, Judea comes under Seleucid rule, administered from Antioch. So, thank you, Mr. Producer. That's how the Seleucids came to own or control Judea. Now, that kind of sets the table for the events of the Maccabees. So if you are not familiar with the Maccabees, if you are a Protestant or non-Protestant, evangelical, or what have you, non-Catholic, non-Orthodox, and you are not familiar, this is one of the apocryphal books. And both canons, the 66-book canon, the 72/73-book canon, there is a difference on who adopted what. The Protestants did not cut 6 to 7 books. The Catholics did not necessarily add 6 to 7 books. It is a question over tradition. The Jews never considered the Maccabees part of their holy canon, but part of their history. They did not consider Tobit, Sirach, Judith, those things as part of their canon. And so ultimately the tradition that the Protestants hail from do not accept those. And even the Catholic tradition generally considers the deuterocanonical, the second canonical books, as less authoritative. They're instructive, they're important, but they're not necessarily inspired in the way that the 66 are. Is a generalization. Everyone has different opinions, but Maccabees 1 and 2, very, very good reading to understand the state of Israel pre-Christ. While I don't believe it's inspired in the way that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, etc., the Torah, those things were all inspired by the hand of God. Maccabees are very valuable. So
I was going to say, certainly from a historical standpoint, at the very least.
Very, very important books. And I think Protestants do a severe disservice not knowing definitely
what
the
those
Maccabees.
books are. Yeah.
So we can have a talk about Tobit and Judith, but we'll leave that there.
That's something that, John Arthur, that I think I mentioned to you earlier that I needed to read up on more because, I haven't been a Christian for, a long time. I'm 65. I came to be a Christian when I was 48. And, there's still a lot of stuff that I haven't read. Mm-hmm. Maccabees and...
Got to get caught up.
A lot of stuff I got to get caught up on, man.
It's 1st and 2nd Maccabees. 3rd and 4th are really primarily like Jewish mysticism. So if you want to check that out, I think it's great, but it's not necessarily something that I think is valuable for the Christian as a Christian, unless you just want to understand the Jewish mystic culture. So not big on that. Right now, the PSP chat live, Alexander the Great was gender fluid. Deep in the hedonism, the Greeks were at this point. Okay. But very, very, very kind to the Jews as far as a conquering dictator could have been. So, I'll I'll give Hitler this. Hitler was great at organizing, and he was great at rallying his people. And unlike Stalin, he actually defended his people and generally wanted their well-being, even if he drove them into a world war that killed so many. Just saying, you can even give Hitler, if you're being honest, you can even give Hitler one on the board for at least caring about at least he loved his nation, apparently. He appears to have loved his nation. Alexander the Great, you can give him one on the scoreboard. Hitler, bad. Alexander the Great, ultimately bad. Okay, Alexander the Bad. There you go. Mr. Producer's looking at me. Guys, I pulled a couple of 30-hour days this last week, so I am drooling tired. But we're going to continue. So go ahead and pull up the next cut, Mr. Producer. As all of this is occurring, remember I said the Jews start to Hellenize. They start to pick up some of the Greek preferences. Yeah, some of the Greek preferences, and they pick up the cultures, the foods, language, fashion, philosophy, athletics, city life. Some Jews embrace this new world eagerly, others cling fiercely to the Torah. Tensions build between the Hellenized and the traditional Jews. Now, this is something that is very, very common in, you look in the Bible, you read through it, God's people always want something else. They want the forbidden fruit. And that is the story of mankind. We always desired the forbidden fruit, the new shiny thing. So we have this traditionalist Judaism on one side, and then we have the Greek hedonism, sports, sex, drugs, rock and roll. That sort of thing is not new. It is actually very old. So along comes Antiochus III. Next cut, Mr. Producer. Antiochus III rises to power in circa 222 through 187 BC is his reign. He reconquers lost territories and dominates the Near East. At first, he grants Judea tax relief and religious freedom. Again, you see this very, very kind treatment to Israel, or Judea rather, and they get this good treatment, and they're more and more in love. And this kind of builds this factionalization between the two different groups. And there are some small skirmishes that happen. There's a little bit of a civil war brewing. Unfortunately, when Antiochus III passes, Antiochus IV, Antiochus Epiphanes comes up. Mr. Producer, next cut. 175, Antiochus IV, Antiochus Epiphanes, we'll call him that from now on, takes the Seleucid throne. He's a volatile ruler, obsessed with enforcing Greek culture and political control. He arrives, and it's a dark day for Judah. It is a dark, dark day. It is the darkest since the Babylonian captivity. And in fact, he comes in, and he finds a Levite who's going to play ball. And this Levite's name is Jason. And Jason becomes the high priest. He actually gives Antiochus Epiphanes a bunch of money. He bribes him. And Antiochus Epiphanes brings Jason on. Go next cut, Mr. Producer. After this bribe installs this new politically correct high priest, Jason. He starts to build this Greek gymnasium. He sends folks off to the games in, I believe it's in Tyre, as a local games. It's kind of like think about it as the state championship, right? And this does not sit well with the majority of the Jews, because you actually see this man defiling the temple, defiling the practices of Judaism, and chasing after the Greek ways, which is not cool with the Jews. So, of course, Jason gets actually into a debate with his brother, Menelaus. And next cut, Mr. Producer, Menelaus and Jason end up fighting a civil war because Menelaus pays Antiochus Epiphanes more money than Jason did even. So you have this civil war between the two factions, and Jason comes back after being routed. He comes back to Jerusalem with an army, kills a whole bunch of Jews, a whole bunch of Menelaus' followers, and gets all the way up to the temple, but then eventually he has to back off and back down. So this is not good for Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes, if you're Antiochus Epiphanes and you see all this happening, what do you think you're going to do, Mr. Producer? if you see your prefecture, your little state, you're the emperor of the United States, and New Jersey starts to act out. Like New Jersey is just causing all this trouble. They're having a little civil war. It's all over their silly little religious beliefs. You're going to go there and you're going to put their teeth on the curb and you're going to stomp their head in. You're going to say, no, no, no. I need to break your will.
Show him who's boss.
Show him who's boss. That's correct. So what does Antiochus Epiphanes do?
Show him who's boss, I'm guessing.
He defiles the temple. Next cut, Mr. Producer. Antiochus sees the civil war as outright rebellion against him. He invades Jerusalem with brutal force, thousands slain, many enslaved. Menelaus opens the door to the temple, brings in other idols, and, of course, you've heard the term abomination of desolation. This is where they put a pig on the altar, and the blood of the pig is then put on all of the different pieces of furniture in the temple. This is Antiochus Epiphanes making like a dog and lifting his leg and saying, this is my tree. I have marked it. And you are powerless. This was a power move on the behalf of Antiochus Epiphanes. A lot of people, especially those Christians who are preterists or partial preterists, believe that this was the Antichrist. Now, I would say that I suspect as a futurist, I believe that we're not really living in Christ's millennial reign at the moment. I don't see Christ ruling with a rod of iron. I suspect that Antiochus Epiphanes is Satan's attempt at an Antichrist, but God, in his restraining influence, has stopped that from going all the way.
You think this had something to do with why Jesus threw the devil's
Into the
legion
pigs?
into the pigs?
Oh yeah, maybe so. Because maybe so. Maybe
I mean,
so.
you know, if you think about it,
Maybe so.
you never know.
So, Greek statues had entered the temple. Next cut, Mr. Producer, including one of Zeus, were now propped up in the temple of Jerusalem. Torah observance was outlawed. Infants who were circumcised were executed. And now we have the story of the mother and her 7 sons. Y'all good there, Mr. Producer? Okay.
14 was
It's all good.
messed up.
The
Sorry.
mother and her 7 sons. Now, I want to go specifically to 2 Maccabees 7, 37 through 42. And Mr. Charlie's going to read this in just a second, but I want to lay this out before you because we didn't have the time today to go through the entire chapter. Go ahead and look up 2 Maccabees 7 if you want to read the whole thing. Charlie's read the whole thing. He's going to read this part. But leading up to this, you have a mother and she has her 7 sons, and they're brought before the Seleucid, regents in the area, and they're told, you're going to eat the pork. And these young men and their mom say, no, absolutely, I will not defile myself. The first one, they boil, they cut skin off, they scalp him. And the next one, and then they burn him in oil. And then they do the same to the next, and to the next, and to the next. And where Charlie's going to pick up is at the youngest of the brothers, brother number 7. And he's going to just read this clip, this little excerpt. And I want you to imagine being a mom, having watched 6 of your boys being scalped, skinned alive, and then burned in oil. And then you have your 7th son. And this happens.
Starting at verse number 37. Like my brothers, I offer up my body and my life for our ancestral laws, imploring God to show mercy soon to our nation, and by afflictions and blows to make you confess that he alone is God. Through me and my brothers, may there be an end to the wrath of the Almighty that has justly fallen on our whole nation. At that, the king became enraged and treated him even worse than the others, since he bitterly resented the boy's contempt. Thus he too died, undefiled, putting all his trust in the Lord. Last of all, after her sons, the mother was put to death. Enough has been said about the sacrificial meals and the excessive cruelties.
So, think about that for just a minute. And by the way, Mr. Producer, just go ahead and check the next few of those while we're talking for just a moment. The next few cuts. So think about that for just a moment. Imagine being in that position as a mother. And then your response is, let me go. Don't worry about it. All good. Your response is, I'm going to say, God is my standard. I will stand on that standard. And each one of the young men, same thing. Then they kill the mother. Some people, when they hear the story of the Maccabees, if they don't read the entire book and they just take the historian's perspective, that the Maccabees were somehow just religious zealots. They were just terrorists against a empire that was holding order in an otherwise disordered state. I want you to think about being that mother for just a moment. I want you to think about living in that time for just a moment. Think about what that would have felt like or been like for you. If anyone here watched the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson?
Mm-hmm. Got part of that.
Yes.
Yep.
So
and it's pretty bad.
It's like that on steroids. So yes, the Maccabees were brutal. Yes, the Maccabees were fierce warriors. They kind of had a reason for that. This was not an abnormal story. This wasn't a one-off. This was common. So this is what the Greeks, or the Seleucids rather, at this point were now doing. Kind of brutal, kind of evil. And so the Maccabees enter the scene now, and they have, they have an issue. So Mattathias, if you can pull up the clip, Mr. Producer, the cut, Mattathias comes along. Yeah, you're going to have to go and sort that. He's a priest in Modin, and he refuses to worship the pagan gods. They ask him, hey, Mattathias, go ahead and come along, and could you please, if you would, sanction our worship? Why don't you go ahead and start eating the meat? Why don't you go ahead and do this? And instead of eating the meat and doing the things, what Mattathias does is he says, no, I am going to kill you if you go up there. A Jew goes up and, to go ahead and sacrifice to this idol, and Mattathias kills him. And then, of course, he kills the envoy from the Seleucids. That begins the rebellion. He has 5 sons, and it becomes intense. It becomes very intense. So how does that progress? Well, the Maccabees were a very, very small force. They started off with just one family, and they quickly grew with Jewish loyalists around them. And it's kind of brutal. And Mattathias is old. And so when he dies, go ahead, next cut, Mr. Producer. When he dies, he gives his final blessings to his sons. And Judas Maccabeus is actually the one who ultimately takes over for his father. And Mr. Producer, you can fix this by going to the next one and just clicking on the actual media source. You can fix that. He goes on to defeat Apollonius, and he takes his sword as a trophy. And what makes this so fantastic is these guys are running a guerrilla campaign. Don't worry about it. Thank you, Mr. Producer. These guys are running a guerrilla campaign, and they start to win one little victory at a time. And it's not without loss of life, but they start to build. Now, this presents a bit of a challenge for them, because even though they're this tiny force, they can never really build up for a full-out assault. And eventually they do, and it ends very poorly for them. But before they do, in 164, go ahead and skip the next one and go to the one after that, Mr. Producer. In 164 BC, they overtake Jerusalem, Judas Maccabeus. By the way, I think it's not an accident in the history of the Bible that Judas Maccabeus, that name is the name of the betrayer of Christ. I don't think that is a mistake. I think that is something that is Judas was looking for a Maccabean style Messiah. It was his name. And anyway, they retake the temple. The temple's desecrated, overgrown, and abandoned. On the 25th of Kislev, restoration begins, where they clean the altars, they reconsecrate them, they reconsecrate the vessels, and they light the lamps. Now, there is a problem with the lamps. Next cut, Mr. Producer. The main lamp only had one jar of oil. Now, this is the lamp that you see in heaven, and actually John the Revelator's testimony of heaven, and also the one that you see in the tabernacle, the second temple, as you see here. This lamp was supposed to be running the entire time. And if you read Revelation and you see the lamp is supposed to run as a symbol of the presence of the Holy Spirit. And so the lamp being lit is an important thing. This is a very, very important thing, but they only have enough oil for one day after the rededication, and they're under siege, and they're fighting, and there's this tremendous amount of consternation. The miracle that we read about, not in the Maccabees, but in the Talmud, is that supposedly the lamp burned for 8 days when there was only 1 day worth of oil left. God provided the light. God provided. If you will fight for it, God will provide. If you seek for it, God will provide the presence of his Spirit. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And that is the core story of Hanukkah. So just to kind of bring us up to date and to speed, that's the core story, and that's why Hanukkah is so special. But just to finish the story of the Maccabees, Judas dies in battle later on, and his brother secures the Jewish independence in about 140 BC. This forms the Hasmonean dynasty, and that dynasty rules for about a century, keeping peace. And ultimately, the Seleucids, the Jews were just too much trouble. They were too much trouble, and they basically signed a deal. They installed a politically correct priesthood, and they said, as long as you do this and that, we'll let you live and reign. And then Rome kind of overtook what was left of the Greek Empire and the Seleucid Empire. And so you have this huge amount of political upheaval, and this sets the stage for Christ. Now, if you can go ahead and do, not the next cut, but the cut after, because I skipped it. Go ahead. We have Christ at the Festival of Lights. So Mr. Producer is going to fix that slide. I apologize there. And it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter when Christ walked into the temple on Solomon's porch. Christ used Hanukkah, the celebration of the temple restoration, to declare his divine identity, and the crowd nearly stones him to death.
Can you imagine that moment?
Just so, but before you dig,
Okay.
I want you to read. I want you to read real quick from John 22, and we're going to go to verse 33 if you're reading at home.
And it was at Jerusalem the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, How long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Christ, tell us plainly. And Jesus answered them, I told you, and ye believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But ye believe not, because ye are not of my sheep, as I said unto you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. Then the Jews took up stones again to stone him. Jesus answered them, Many good works have I showed you from my Father. For which of those works do you stone me? The Jews answered him, saying, For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God.
So, the light of the world comes to the world. And he says, on this feast of dedication, the Feast of Lights, of God sending light in the time of darkness, the presence of God's Spirit. By the way, it's not a mistake that the menorah, you take the center candle and you light the first candle on the first night. You light the second candle and the first candle on the second night, and you move forward. It always comes from the central wellspring. It comes from the Lord. The light of the world reproduces. So that understanding, that backdrop is what Jesus is speaking from. He's saying, look, I'm not just a messianic figure like Moses or Joshua or Gideon or David, any of these others. That's not what I am. I'm one with God. I'm God's son. I'm his only begotten. That's when the Jews had an issue with him. When he said he was the fulfillment of the promises in the sense of he is the Son of God, that's when they picked up the stones. But Jesus is the light of the world. He is the light that is available to us. He celebrated Hanukkah. He celebrated the celebration of the dedication. I think it's a good idea to celebrate it. And especially when you consider the fact that, in a way, Christ in that moment consecrated it, showing us what the true celebration and dedication is. I think we can look at the death of the martyrs. Death of the martyrs, even the martyrs for the Maccabean time frame. They said, we serve God. We serve our God. And we will die for our God. It'd be so easy. We were talking about this earlier. Mm-hmm. The Church of Smyrna, if you're reading Revelation, all they had to do is pinch some incense and just toss it into the flame, and they could worship Christ. They could worship Christ. All they had to do is to pick up some incense, throw it in the flame, and say, Hail Caesar. That was an act of worship to Caesar. See, the Smyrnans were a lot like America today. They were very tolerant. Very tolerant. But why was Christ's church most bereaved, most destroyed? Why did Polycarp die a martyr in Smyrna? It's because they were tolerant as long as you stood for nothing. As long as you worshiped all the gods and Caesar and anything. You can worship your Christian God, that's fine. You can worship your dead Jesus, that's fine. But you can't do so if it's exclusive. And that's why the church in Smyrna suffered. Christ is our light. And I think that we can take some note in Advent season of the martyrs of the Maccabean time frame, those Jews who really waited on God. They waited on their salvation, and they died loving God, and they said, I will only love God. We can take some time. If you want to add to the 12 days of Christmas, the 8 days of Hanukkah, I mean, that's a fun month. I like that. I like that. But just to kind of sum up a little bit, Mr. Producer, next slide. Christ is the light of the world. He is the Messiah that we've waited for, not just some Mattathias Maccabee or Judas Maccabee, okay? God's Spirit is the central lamp from which all other lights, all of the lamps are lit, and from whom all light flows. And our Savior has come and made himself known, giving us light. So how do people celebrate Hanukkah? Well, let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Mr. Producer. Families will often they'll light the candles, like I said. You start progressively each night. You add a new candle if you want to do this at home. And by the final night, all 9 candles are lit. 8 days, 1 central candle lights candle 1, night 1, candles 1 and 2, night 2, 1, 2, and 3, night 3, etc. Children play with dreidels, okay? And dreidels were actually, what they would do, Mr. Producer, thank you, is they would actually hide the fact that they were studying God's word when they were gambling. Oh, the Jews are just gambling with their dreidel, and they would spend the dreidel, and then they would share verses from the Torah. And that's how it was kind of an underground game of how do we commune with each other in public in large groups without being tortured or persecuted. And the dreidel was one of their peakways of it, and it's a little top. So that's why the kids have the dreidel. It's a song, dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. That's where it comes from. And then, of course, if you want to celebrate Hanukkah, latkes, okay? It's fried potatoes and lots of other fried foods.
Not lattes.
Not lattes, latkes. Have you ever had a latke?
I have not, but I'm actually dreaming of one right now. I'm thinking of maybe a glazed one. Did they have those?
Yeah.
I want to make my own latke.
It tastes a lot like a hash brown or a potato pancake.
Really?
It's like somewhere between a hash brown and a potato pancake.
I could do that.
It's really good. So they did that in remembrance of the oil. And not the oil that those sons were burned in, although that came to my mind the first time I heard this.
Yeah.
That was sobering. But really for the oil that God provided for the candle and for the lampstands within the temple. So you eat a lot of fried foods. It's just a fun time. And my family has celebrated Hanukkah for years from the perspective of Christ is our Savior, and he brings light into the world. I think Advent season, sometimes we make it all about Santa Claus and the fun carols and this and that. I think there's a time for reflection, and Hanukkah can be a time for reflection.
I was just thinking that of all the Christian holidays that we really get behind, Easter is probably one of the most symbolic when you think about the different aspects of it. Traditionally, us in America today, we don't get into all the different things that are done for a Passover meal.
Yeah.
But the point of it is this: when you look at the Passover meal, there is incredible symbolism in it.
Well, Jesus said, "Do this in remembrance of me."
Absolutely.
And I'm not picking on Protestants with their little cups and their little wafer, or I'm not going to pick on the Eucharist. I'm just going to say, guys, none of that is what Jesus was doing when he said, "Do this in remembrance of me." If you've ever had a Seder, just a real quick detour because we got a little bit of time. Short detour. The essence of the Seder is this: there are 4 cups of wine. By the way, that's why Paul was telling the Corinthians, "You guys are drunk, and some of you haven't even eaten yet." Because there's 4 cups of wine that are taken throughout. The first 2 before you eat, the second 2 after you eat. And before you eat, the Jews have been celebrating this the exact same way since 200 years before Christ. And historians say that it's been celebrated almost exactly the same. There is a piece of cloth where you put 1, 2, 3 pieces of bread into. The middle part is taken out. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. The Jews don't understand this for some reason. The middle part is broken in half. Half of that is wrapped up and hidden away for the children to go and find after the meal. The child who finds it is given a reward. The afikomen is the better part, the dessert, the later part. The afikomen is then taken after they had eaten. Jesus broke the bread. It's when the afikomen would have been broken. At Passover, what was Jesus eating? Passover. Mm-hmm. This is my body, broken for you. The afikomen is the piece of bread that is broken and then handed out. Then the third cup is the cup of redemption. I'm not going to go through all the cups. We'll do another Passover episode.
We should do one full one. Yeah.
We'll do a full one when that comes around because the Passover is amazing. But the third cup, this is my blood poured out for you because it's the cup of redemption. Okay. And then the fourth cup, Jesus says, I will not drink of this cup. Would have been the fourth cup, the cup of rejoicing, until all of you join me in heaven. I will not drink of the cup of rejoicing until everything is fulfilled. If a Jew or a Gentile was familiar with Passover, would have read the gospel and known what part of the Seder order of service Jesus was in the middle of.
Yep.
It's very clear to someone who's ever done a Seder, and they've been doing it 200 years before. They still don't get it. And by the way, a lot of the church doesn't get it. Who here has even been in a Seder? I mean, everyone here has, because I've drug some of y'all through it.
Oh yeah,
You've done it before.
Oh, I've done a couple of them with you.
Yeah,
or 2, 3, or 4 or something. I don't.
They're worthwhile.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And the first one I did with you I enjoyed immensely. But I was sitting here thinking, and I've read that a number of times about Paul talking to them, and saying that they were drunk after 4 cups of wine, and I just still think that I always look back on that thinking, God, those folks had to be some lightweights, man.
That's a different issue.
Man, I just like, God, because I know the wine they had to be drinking couldn't have been stout.
Yeah.
Yep. Man, that's some real lightweights.
And by the way, I saw this in the live chat. This is a common question. Easter is pagan. I will say this. There's something wrong with the rabbit. Okay. But Pesach, Passover, Jesus didn't celebrate Easter. He celebrated Pesach or Passover. And it's been translated Pesach for years and years. It was actually at the Council of Nicaea that we decided to stop celebrating that because it was too Jewish. And Ignatius kind of put that forward. But all that to say, I love my Catholic brothers and sisters. I think you're missing a lot. You're missing a lot of the fullness of truth when you realize it's not a different religion. God set those feasts in order. The Jews can take something and they could run with it and they can make mistakes with it. That's absolutely true. I totally agree. But as God decreed and as Jesus did, so try I to do. So that's all I'm saying here. But all of that to say, Jesus is the light of the world and he is the celebration. And Jesus celebrated Hanukkah. So I do too, from the perspective of Christ. And I do think about the martyrs.
And just to finish up that thought that I had, and I appreciate you running down that path. When you look at Passover and the symbolism there, Hanukkah's got to be right up there.
It's up there. I would say the other 7 feasts are even better.
Duly noted.
Yeah. So Passover, unleavened bread. Jesus was probably born on unleavened bread. Died at Passover, raised again at first fruits. Holy Spirit came down at Pentecost. And I suspect, don't know, I'm not saying, I suspect Christ will come back at the Feast of Trumpets when the trumpets shall sound, deliver judgment on the Day of Atonement, and then dwell with us forever after Sukkot, the tabernacles, the Feast of Dwelling Places. God will make his dwelling with man. So again, this is not Judaizing. This is saying that God set up something for the Jews. And we can say as Christians, oh, that's interesting. I think that's a wonderful thing. I want to sit there and I want to remember God and I want to remember what he's done. And I want to thank him for what he will do. Now, with all of that said, any thoughts on Hanukkah? Got me on Passover now.
I think it's exciting.
We're going to do a thing on Easter. Is Easter pagan? No, it's not. Ishtar and Easter have no semblance. They have no reference. Teaser for that time of year. But I will say, I think the rabbit is a mistake. I think the rabbit's generally not my thing. I think it detracts from Jesus. And I think that we should focus on Passover as opposed to the rabbit.
Amen.
Anyway, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, actually, rabbit's pretty good.
Well, to eat.
Tastes real good.
To eat, yeah. The kids are not going to be happy.
Good on barbecue.
If you ever butchered, rabbits, the hopper popper comes to mind, but we don't want to do that in front of the kids, Steve.
Nope.
Oh, Easter's on Sunday, April 5th this next year.
Okay.
Maybe
so coming soon to a march
rabbit
near you. We'll do the.
We'll do a Passover Seder.
I think what would be good. Maybe you can let us know in the comments. I think what would be good, clear out our stuff here and put a table up.
Yeah, we'll have to do it.
Sure. And really, hone in on the key pieces.
That'll be fun.
Cook some rabbit.
We can cook some rabbit for Pesach. That would be okay. Technically, though, you're usually supposed to do lamb, Steve.
Oh,
yeah. I was
it's literally lamb.
I don't think rabbit was part of the meal.
To be politically incorrect.
I know you are, but you can't. You in doing so, you're substituting the lamb for the rabbit.
That's very mistake. And we don't want to do that.
We don't do that.
No,
we don't.
We still want the lamb.
So rabbit with mustard sauce is good vibes. Again, if you're one of our regular listeners, thank you for hundreds of thousands of downloads on the audio. Yes. YouTube is throttling us. Rumble, it's just a slow creep, but we're glad that you guys are there. You can also join in the live chat at PSB's Rumble, DLive, or Vaughn.live. You can join on Sundays, 1 to 3 Central Time, God's time zone. So let's go ahead and have a little bit of fun. We're going to shift gears a little bit into Steve's shenanigans.
I can go shoot me a buffalo.
Nope. Nope.
Stay out of my garbage can. I'll keep it to myself.
So, Steve,
Yes, sir.
what are we doing today?
We are going to get into the great outdoors, sir.
Ooh.
4 ways to die in the great outdoors. That's
Yes.
what I saw.
Whoa.
It's like
This
100
sounds
ways,
morbid.
but shorter.
But
Well, it's how to prevent the death.
Okay.
It's kind of how to prevent, actually, to tell you the truth. So, we're going to kind of get into a few things.
Number
to
one does
keep
not sound fun.
It's
I'm just
not
saying.
really.
Yeah.
And I personally have kind of come close to it.
A couple times.
Well, one time for sure.
Well, let's
I
say
can
what it is.
guarantee you.
Number one is first way to die thing that you need to look out for in any climate, temperature, or time. It's hypothermia.
You bet, man. And I'll tell you what, I was hunting one time and was doing some duck hunting. It was we were in the woods camping. It's up on Sam Rayburn. We were way up this bayou that I've gone up years and years, called Ash Bayou, with my kids, and we were up there hunting duck, like I said, duck hunting in this flooded area of woods, and happened to trip over a log under the water, believe it or not. Fell flat on my face and got soaked. And it was in December, and it was about
Terrible. Were you wearing cotton?
20 degrees. Nope.
What were you wearing?
I had on some wool
Ooh,
and
about as bad.
I had on some thermal underwear, but we were traveling in a boat to get there. So we had to travel back along the bayou, which was about a couple of miles back to the camp, and it was raining
Oh, wow.
That's
at the time.
That's a bad
That's
combination.
why you have a buddy, and you have a good evac plan. Anywhere you
Right.
go, you folks got to remember it's important to have the buddy system.
Correct. And we had there were 4 or 5 of us that were hunting. We had 2 boats,
Yep.
and I was one of them that was driving the boat. So it kind of kept me moving
Yeah.
to help kind of keep me warm a little bit. And when I got back to the camp, first thing we did was make a fire. I got my clothes off, went into the tent. We had a little heater in there, turned it on, changed clothes, I got changed down to my underwear and got next to the heater to warm up, got on some thermals,
Yep.
got good warm clothes on, and then got out next to the fire. And
That's the way to do it.
And I was at the point where I was starting to shiver
Yep.
at that point. That's when I knew
It's bad.
it was starting to get bad, because I was starting to shiver. And I was at, like close. I knew it was getting close.
So the way that one time on a canoeing trip in Canada, my now business partner, buddy from youth, Michael, was washing dishes at 6 a.m. and he fell headfirst into the drink. And of course, it's 40-degree water, so it's not terribly cold, but cold enough. And he comes out and his lips are blue and he's doing the quivering. So okay, what you do if you have a tent and you have a sleeping bag ready and you have a fire, boil some water. Pour about half of it into a cup or into your Nalgene or canteen, right? And then fill the other half with cold. Put that right in the groin area, okay? And then also underneath the armpits. That's where you got the most blood flow. That's the way to really quickly get that in. Do not share. I teach wilderness first aid, wilderness first survival and response. Do not share body heat unless you must. If you don't have a stove, you don't have a fire, and if you have water bottles that you can get hot water into and get them into a sleeping bag with a person, if you don't have any of that and you are by yourselves in the cold, how did you get there? Number one. Number two, if you are there, understand something. A 170-pound male may not be able to warm up another 170-pound male before the warm one loses too much heat. Let me give you an extreme of that. Do you think a 95-pound woman is going to be able to warm up a 300-pound man?
Not even close.
Nope.
The truth of the matter is the margins are really tight if you're both even the same size. You can do it, and if you have multiple people, you can rotate. The better thing to do is to get the wet clothes off, get them into something warm, and if you can, put warm liquids in canteens or Nalgene bottles or whatever you got, 2-liter bottles if that's all you got, into their sleeping bag with them, warm water bottles to get them warmed up. We had Michael back in shape in about an hour, but if we hadn't fixed that, it would have been very bad very quick. One more for you on hypothermia. I got this one story from a doctor. And he said, I had the strangest event here. You want to hear it? Sure. In Houston, Texas, 88-degree day. Couple comes in with hypothermia. Doctor's opinion was if they'd been out for another 15 minutes in the condition they were in, they would have not made it.
In 88
degrees. You want to know the variable? 50-knot winds. And soaking wet clothing. So what happened was, so just to bring it home for you guys. So we're talking about ways to die in the wild or in the outdoors. This couple was at their local swimming pool, and they were squirting each other with the shower off before you get into our pool showers. And people said they went from flirty, silly to stupering, stammering, dumb with blue lips. They said they saw them stammering and starting to stumble. They called 911. The doctor's opinion was with the blue lips, the cyanosis, everything else going on. If someone hadn't called, if they had just kind of sat down I remember that day. Walking was like you had to lean into the wind to kind of walk. It was one of those days. So very extreme condition, okay? And I can only assume they're wearing jeans. We call jeans in the survival world death cloth.
Yes.
Once it gets wet, it weighs you down in the water, and of course, it sticks to your skin and saps away the heat. This couple, for whatever reason, they must have had the survival instincts of a donut, but they were right at the brink. So it can happen in any season, in any locale. Hypothermia can happen, and the reason for that, just real quick, what's the textbook temperature for the human body?
98.6.
Okay, it's getting hotter, and I don't mean in the Instagram way, but human body is getting hotter in the sense of maybe the death of our species, but it's a different issue. When you're in the hospital or with a fever, your body's elevating a temperature. Why is it doing that?
Typically because of infection.
It wants to make the body an inhospitable environment to that bug.
Yep.
The problem is we get up to 105, 107 degrees for a prolonged period of time, 105, or even for an hour at 107, you cause brain tissue damage.
Yep.
So we got to enter in with the antibiotic. Because the body is fighting that infection, they will succumb to sepsis if you don't finish the antibiotic regimen, because you have bugs in your system. Right. So everyone has bugs in their system. And today, if I would go over and I bite Steve and it punctures his skin, he's going to go to the hospital because not everyone's bugs are the same. And we're all, you guys know that you have streptococci, flesh-eating bacteria, MRSA, staph, all sorts of wonderful things in your system today. Some people, they get to a 9, so I'm coming back to why hypothermia can happen even in the summer. Some people who are immunocompromised, 2 to 4 degree delta from their norm, sepsis can set in because they're fighting some bacteria, some infection, and their regular homeostasis, and they can, not everyone, very few, but that does exist.
That's amazing.
So the human body is remarkably delicate.
Yes.
It's remarkably robust in a different way. It's very interesting how it's designed.
Love
And
that verse.
alcohol can create a big problem with hypothermia. Also, in the same type of situation that John Arthur is talking about, in that heat with those types of winds, alcohol can do the same thing. Because I had been out on a fishing trip one
Yes.
time, and
Makes you much more susceptible.
we came in and there was and it was warm. I'm talking like close to 90. And we came in, we had done some good fishing and we were coming in. This was at Lake Conroe. And there was an ambulance up at the landing. And we were like trying to figure out what's some ambulance. We thought maybe somebody had a drowning or something like that. And we found out hypothermia. And we were like, what?
Yeah.
Hypothermia, that's like 90 degrees,
It can happen any
and they told
time.
us it was because of the high winds, and these people had been drinking all day long.
It puts you at a
and stuff,
severe
and-
risk.
Yes,
Also
it does.
for AMS, if you're trying to tackle a mountain top, drinking can set you up for acute mountain sickness. It's not a good idea to do large amounts of alcohol when you're in the outdoors. There's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Yes, boy, that's for sure. I've seen that a lot.
Hypothermia, something to look out for. The next one,
Yes,
Mr. Steve, is
infections and septic shock.
so
One of the things we were just kind of
closely
talking about.
related to hypothermia.
Yes,
And this is why you keep your shock victims warm,
very much so.
because of that temperature delta. That some people, they're going to succumb to sepsis a lot quicker because of the natural or the bugs that they normally have in their system. Your body maintains that temperature partly to keep those infections at bay. And if you get that temperature lower, other things can happen. But there are other metrics and other mechanisms for septic shock, aren't there?
Yes. And some of these occur through, like, you can have them in just accidents in the outdoors, having something poked into your body, getting an infection, and you can get septic, get that way.
Yeah.
Having something poked into your body, just a stick, something bites you, a hook sticks into your hand, and you don't take care of that. I mean, I have seen people have a hook stuck in their hand from, this is so strange. Somebody, we running a trot line, been using it for days, and they stick a hook in there. Oh, it'll be all right. And I'm like, hey, we need to do something about this. Put some antibiotic on it or something like that. Oh, no, it'll be fine. And this guy, he's like, I'm like, what in cable, and he's like, rah, rah. A few days later, boy, this thing's getting red and it's all sore and it's getting bad. And I'm like, dude. And then by the time we get home, 2 days later, I call him up. He's in the hospital because he's got an infection and he's trying to cut down on septic shock, because it's starting to get lines running up his arm
Yep. You can lose the limb really quickly that way.
just from a hook stuck into his hand that we caught one fish on.
You want to make sure that when you have a puncture wound, and we'll talk about this because Steve and I are talking about some of the segments, but we'll talk about this with animal bites. You want to flush under pressure those immediately. If you can get your own, if you're bleeding, if it's like a stuck pig bleeder, use your own blood to flush it out before you put direct pressure on it, because that's the best thing, because you have all of those nice little antibodies and they're all ready to go. You want to make sure that you use your own blood to wash out the wound if you can. If you can't, flush fresh saline or boiled water flush out a wound. If you can't get enough blood to flush it out that way, because it is serious. You want to make sure you protect yourself. And if you're on like a long camping trip or hiking trip, canoeing or whatever, it's really a bummer to have to pull over because you might lose your arm.
Yeah. Oh man, could you imagine having to cut a nice hunting trip off, man, when you're out and you got all? Oh man, that'd be a bummer.
To me, this and the hypothermia one would absolutely not want to die that way. I will say this about the hypothermia. If you suffer from hypothermia, one of the things that you naturally want to do is sleep.
Not a good idea.
Definitely not a good idea.
I'm
not advocating that. But my point is this: it's a slow way, but you're not thinking about it. This here,
Sepsis.
you're thinking about this every moment until that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So 76 Red Pills is cracking off the dad jokes in the comment section here on PSB's D Live here. Hypothermia is not a cool way to die.
No, it's not.
Not a cool way to die. I caught hypothermia when painting. It needed a second coat. Yep, you should see yourself out. But,
oh my! Is this dad jokes? What is this?
This is full on dad jokes. One Brad A correctly says super glue. Okay, I'm going to say something. Super glue is really good if you have nothing else. The best thing to do is tape. You can use duct tape, gaff tape. I prefer gaff tape. It's a little bit less hard on the skin than duct tape, but you get the two edges of the wound if you have a nice clean slice and you put them up against each other. The problem with super glue is that if you make a mistake and you don't put it on the two edges of the skin and then push the fold together, but instead you get it down in there, now you have a blockage in the bloodstream. Now, I'm not saying that you would do that. That's why I recommend tape, because it's a little bit simpler. But if you know what you're doing with super glue is a great tool for that. And so honey will help heal faster as well, says a good bird. Yeah, honey, natural honey that has not been adulterated or messed with is very, very good. My grandmother, when she was still alive, God bless her, she had a bed sore from sitting in the hospital for way too long. The nurse was able to reach her hand up into the sore and pull the pus out. It was that much.
That's bad.
They were about to say they gave her 14 days left to live, or 20 days to live, somewhere in there. It was a horrible infection. And my aunt on my mom's, the opposite side of the family, my mom's side, heard, and she says, just give her honey. Just put honey in the wound and it will fix it. And they said, we can't do that, this and that. Here's a prescription for Meta honey. Use this. The best honey, from the Egyptian bee, blah, blah, blah. It's honey, but it's FDA certified for medical use. Okay. So they get to charge a lot more, but they put Meta honey in it, and 10 days.
Facebook honey.
Yeah. Not Facebook honey, Meta, honey. Not Meta, Medi honey.
Okay.
So that hole that the nurse could reach your small hand up in there and pull the pus out was closed in 10 days. Was closed. The one that they said was going to kill, at the time, it was going to kill my grandmother, was closed in 10 days. Okay? So honey, else. Very, very good. What it does is, it's really interesting. It does not react poorly to your white blood cells and your body's antibodies, all the good stuff your body's got going on, your leukocytes, all that. It doesn't harm those, but instead it only harms infection. It's a God-given antibiotic, topical antibiotic. It is a very, very good antibiotic. So I absolutely agree.
It's interesting that bee vomit is such a good thing
beneficial
to use for bed sores.
Yeah, so one Brad A, I've had to treat a 3-inch long cut over a 1/2 inch deep. No issues. It's scarred, but that's okay. That's where I say vitamin E oil can help with that. I'm not prescribing. I'm not giving medical advice. Just my full disclaimer. I've made my observations and disclaimers. You make your own conclusions. But vitamin E oil topical, can help with scars. I have family members, and I myself have had a couple of really nasty boogers that vitamin E oil has helped.
I've done
also using the blood is big. I've had slices down my hand and all sorts of nasty stuff where putting the tissue back together. I tell people wound treatment is a lot like marriage. The sooner you cleanse the wound out with the blood, and then you put the two pieces back together, the less likely there's going to be a scar and the better it'll heal. Use the blood of Christ over the relationship. Use your own blood to push out the stuff, if that's possible. That'll also help reduce. And if you use tape, that's where you will reduce your scarring. But with that said, don't ask me how I know this. I definitely don't teach first responders and woofer and WFA. But anyway, kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So next one, Mr. Steve and Mr. Producer.
Breaks and fractures.
Oh boy.
So wait a minute. We're talking about ways to die. Pelvic or femoral fracture. I mean, that's not life-threatening, is it, Steve?
No, not at all, man. No break.
In the outdoors, I've
pelvic,
got to bleed.
fractures, concussions, none of that stuff.
In the indoors, it is too.
Yeah.
Because
Pelvic is just,
shock is defined. Shock is defined, not septic shock. We talked about septic shock. That's a specific type of shock. But every human dies from shock, barring
Right.
some very strange circumstances, like unless you're evaporated in a ball of plasma by an IED or you're Fargoed through the wood chipper or something like that. Unless that's what's going on, you will die from shock, okay? Barring some strange circumstance where you just cease to exist. Whether it's a deathbed of cancer or it is the battlefield in Gaza, you will die from shock of some sort. For some reason, the blood is not moving to where it needs to go and you have a buildup of carbon and carbon dioxide in the tissues, and that kills the tissue. Oxygen usually removes it. So either the heart's not pumping or not pumping right, or it's stopped, the blood's not flowing, or it's blocked. Or there's something wrong. There's a toxin in the bloodstream that's preventing O2, CO2 transfer from the red blood cell. Okay, that's what kills you. The O2 is no longer coming in and removing the CO2, and that's what kills your cells. Now, a break of your femur or pelvis won't necessarily kill you, as anyone who's had that happen knows. It's like, well, that's not going to kill you. Yeah, because you got medical attention really quickly. But as you start to see that huge swelling, what's swelling?
that tissue.
Internal bleeding. And the blood's not flowing. So what happens? The body starts to close those arteries and veins to increase blood pressure because the blood's not flowing properly. The problem is some people, they close it faster and faster than others. And sometimes it closes stuff that you need to be open. And you can die from shock with a femoral injury if you do not treat it immediately, or a pelvic injury. You can go downhill in the matter of 6 hours from some of these.
We are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Amen.
Amen
We really
on
are.
that. And
Amen.
it's not difficult to get one of these, man. I mean, you can be walking down a trail and trip and fall and say like you're walking in a rocky trail, like in the mountains,
I think
in the hill country, and trip, fall down a little cliff that's maybe 2 feet.
Yeah.
And it's easy to break a limb, get a pelvic fracture, a concussion. It's so easy. And you could be 2 miles or a mile from your vehicle.
And you can't get back. Best case study I have of this is one of the things when we're doing first response training, we always bring this one out. This is one that my dad heard when he was young as an EMT. There was this one case study where in Southern California, those F-100s, they didn't have the collapsible steering wheels in the columns. So the guy hits a embankment at the bridge, breaks his, ribs and just crushes everything in, and he's taken to the hospital. This happens at 4 or 5 p.m. He wakes up at 1 a.m. in the morning in the hospital after the paramedics have taken care of him and yada, yada. He's been to the ER and they've done work on him. He goes, okay, great, this and that. How are my friends doing? Your friends? You were the only one brought in. They go back to the crash site. This is in Southern California in the late 60s, early 70s. They were in the back of the pickup. When the pickup hit, all three of them are thrown up, 2 males and a female. Because of their broken ribs and large bone fractures, they weren't able to get out of the culvert. You know, LA has a lot of those culverts, those concrete drainage flows. They couldn't get out of the water.
So they drowned.
So one of them died from hypothermia, not being able to get out. The other two they were able to save. They were hypothermic. They weren't able to move, but they were able to be saved. The young lady was not. So all of that to say, when you have an accident scene, count personal effects. Count personal effects. It's one of the things we teach first responders, we teach Boy Scouts, we teach people who are involved in this, or if they're just going out on their own. Count personal effects. Try to, and if you can talk to someone, if they're responsive, ask them how many people were with you. Who else was with you? Because if you lose that, unfortunately, that young lady, she was just a teenager, could have been saved. She just had broken ribs and I think a broken femur, or you know, I forget which. Might have been tibia. All that to say, could have been saved if they had just known to look down over the edge, but they didn't know. So
broken bones, it can be so devastating.
And it's a simple thing. It's like walk it off. Well, sometimes you can't, right?
Right.
So,
I have, I guess probably 35, 40 years ago, I was up that same bayou when I was a young man, probably in my 20s, and was hunting, deer hunting I was in a tree and was starting to climb out, and it was late in the evening, and misstepped and slipped and fell out of the tree and fractured my ankle, and we were not able to leave because of my ankle was so bad and swollen.
Yeah.
We couldn't pack up or anything.
That's a great example of a really fun time outdoors turning into a literal survival situation.
Yeah.
yep.
It can happen fast.
It man, that quick, man. That quick.
So Cold Steel 2 had a pelvic aneurysm, been in the hospital ill, and had that blood mass for months before it absorbed. I'm so sorry to hear that you're going through that. That's intense.
It is.
Dearman, no, my gun was not injured.
So the gun wasn't injured, but he was okay. I fell while
And
out
I still
working.
hunt in trees.
I fell while out working, and someone asked, it's a 4.5-foot fall face first, but I managed with equipment to, land it. The only thing that happened is I twisted my wrist, and someone's like, "Hey, is that concrete okay?" He's from Texas. You better check the concrete was literally the words from one of them.
And since that time I'd fallen out of that tree, I've learned martial arts. I've learned how to break fall.
Yeah.
And I've fallen out of a tree since I've learned break falls, and I didn't get hurt when I fell out of it the second time.
He didn't learn how to fall off a roof onto a ladder.
Well, that's because he pressure washed himself.
I got 2 broke ribs from that one.
and a perforated lung because you pressure washed yourself like Peanuts.
Oh my goodness.
Charlie
Yes.
Brown right off the freaking roof.
Where's Lucy when you needed her?
No, he didn't need Lucy. He did it all himself.
Yes.
Next one, Mr. Producer. What's the next one, Steve?
Okay.
Drowning.
This one is not a pleasant one for anybody to deal with. None of them are, to tell you the truth, but this one is always difficult, and it's drowning.
Yep.
And here is one good way to keep from drowning, or especially, let me put it this way. Teach your children how to swim.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
Absolutely.
Teach them how to swim. I remember when I was a kid, I couldn't have been no more but in first, second grade. And my mom was afraid of the water, didn't ever learn how to swim. And she made a point to take us to lessons to learn how to swim.
Yeah.
So that we would never have that problem. And since that time, I have saved 2 people from drowning
Oh, yeah.
from just because of that. And then you can also see that not only is there a person that's drowning in that picture, but someone reaching down
Yeah.
to save them.
So, rules with drowning: if you're saving someone else, reach, throw, row, go. Okay, and that's
Very much.
if you can do a 3-point contact, 1 point out to reach, whether that's your foot or your arm, reach, but make sure you have 3 points of contact. Throw a survival device like a personal flotation device, a PFD, with a rope. Row, go out in a boat if you must. And finally, only go if it's a point of last resort, but make sure you have 2 personal flotation devices with you, one that you're wearing or carrying, and then one for them. Because in the lizard brain of someone who is drowning,
Yes.
you are a floaty, and they are drowning, and they will put you under the water.
Climb on your head.
And you will die unless you do this one thing.
Yes.
Go down. If someone's trying to climb you to survive a drowning, go down, because that's the one place they don't want to go.
Exactly.
You can swim away and then you can move on from there. But if you need to bring someone in, the way to bring them in is you put their head right here and you put your arm right around their neck and you side stroke. If they wake up and they become a problem, oh, that's a half Nelson. I can clinch them up and say, hey, calm down. But you also have one whole arm to move. So that is your rescue position if you must go and save. The thing with drowning, they're not dead until they're warm and dead is another thing. Remember CPR immediately. You don't
Yes.
need to do a whole bunch of squeezing out. One good squeeze, one good layover is great. But during drowning, the trachea valve closes. When the heart stops, usually the trachea valve closes. And it doesn't start to reopen until 20 minutes after cardiac arrest, okay, the clinical death moment. And it opens at a slow, steady, measurable rate. You ever wonder, Mr. Producer, how they found, or they're able to say the victim was found 3 hours after they were deceased? The trachea valve opens at a measurable rate, and it's a steady rate. It's the same rate after the body starts to just completely, the cells are dying, everything's dead, and it's just relaxing. It's going into rigor mortis. That trachea valve opens. Why am I bringing that up? Well, when someone drowns, that valve closes. When you start to try to do rescue breaths, you're going to be pushing against that valve, and in a lot of cases, they throw up. Did I mention I really recommend using a barrier? I really recommend using a rescue barrier, because if you're taking a breath and you're about to give them a rescue breath and they vomit into your mouth,
Not going to be pleasant.
try to use a barrier if you can. Understand that they could throw up, and they may not revive when they throw up, but it's a good thing if they throw up.
Right.
It means that they're getting all that water. The body has to process it out, because often it's set up, like the trachea valve closing, it's set up defense mechanisms against more water coming in.
I like what A0712 was saying. I think CPR should be mandatory middle or high school.
Oh, I totally
And
agree.
I would totally
I would-
concur.
Yes.
If I
would
were
agree.
king, I feel like the lion, the cowardly lion in Wizard of Oz, but if I were king, I'd have people learn how to field strip an AR-15. They'd understand how to do almost any handgun. They'd have a marksmanship class. They'd have CPR, trauma, and just about anything that you would need to enlist. They would have that
Yes.
all done, because A, school shootings would go very differently.
Yeah.
B,
I
our
agree.
respect for firearms, our respect for life would be very different. And then C, you're better prepared for all the above. And CPR is something that is, it's very simple. guys. It's 30 compressions, 2 breaths on the crest of the sternum, right in the center of the chest where you can see the little divot. Okay, and that's where you want to go. 30 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. If you don't have a barrier and you don't know the person, just do 100 compressions a minute to the tune Staying Alive, and that is the way to go.
Younger years ago, man, back in the 60s and the late 50s or through the 50s, they had that kind of stuff in school, especially teaching kids how to shoot. I mean, they had shooting classes.
Yeah.
They taught kids how to shoot guns and how to be safe with guns. And you didn't have problems with shootings or any kind of accidental shootings for years.
Yeah.
Until,
well, yeah, a lot of social programs and a lot of missteps. But
so, but that's
this has been
that's another story.
Steve's shenanigans.
Yes.
Now, on to Ryan's favorite piece. We're going to do a little bit of a music review.
Ooh, I love that piano.
No expense spared. So, today we are going to look.
Himself.
Yes, there you go. Sure. Today we're going to look at a couple songs. Now, again, we want to start off the song review by explaining why is it that we're doing this. What are you consuming in your heart and your mind? And again, according to the 1800s philosopher, let me write the songs of a nation. I care not for its laws. So what is being sung in the culture? And what is being sung in the church? And what are we taking into our hearts and our minds? What are we ingesting? And therefore, out of the overflow of that, what will pour forth? So this is an old song. Old, it's 2013 or 2011. I forget when.
That's old.
But it's not a current song, but it's got billions of views on YouTube, on there, and many, many more plays on the Spotify's and Apple and et cetera, et cetera. Today, we're going to look at Counting Stars by One Republic. This was one of the top charters for a long time, and we thought it was interesting. So let's go ahead and go to the first verse. So, lately, I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. But baby, I've been praying hard, said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Yeah, we'll be counting stars. So there's 2 ways that you can interpret this. Any thoughts, Mr. Producer?
Honestly, like the first time I heard this song, I was like, what is this even talking about?
So yeah, it's a deep thought. Either it is a rebuttal of materialism, or it's the full embrace. And I'm not sure which one they meant. I believe
it's a bit confusing.
It's very confusing, and so it depends on what the culture is doing with it. But let's go ahead and keep reading. Verse 1, I see this life like a swinging vine, swing my heart across the line. In my face is flashing signs, seek it out and ye shall find. You'll hear the Christian undertones in this. Old, but I'm not that old. Young, but I'm not that bold. I don't think the world is sold on just doing what we're told. I feel something so right doing the wrong thing, and I feel something so wrong doing the right thing. I couldn't lie. Everything that kills me makes me feel alive.
Boy, does this, with the exception of that last 2 lines there, that's the Apostle Paul.
Well, this is the crux of human nature.
Yep.
Everything that kills me makes me feel alive.
Yep.
Everything that's bad.
I was going to say everything that's sinful.
Everything that's sinful.
Yeah, kind of like when it's like the first 2 sentences, even the first 2 verses.
Yeah.
I feel something so right doing the wrong thing.
That's why I say it's really the Apostle Paul there. That which I should not do, I do. And that, it's just it's a mirror of what he's speaking there.
So it's interesting. I do think it's one of those things where you see these people in the culture. They look like they're tinkering with Christianity and with Christian philosophy.
Real quick, I believe that the lead singer of One Republic at least claims Christianity.
He claims Christianity.
Yeah.
He claims it, but he doesn't.
Well,
I don't know.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know because sometimes they write this stuff and you sit there and you go, and you check their lifestyle and you say, are you struggling with this? Is this something that's coming out because you're struggling with it? But then people sing it and they think a very different thing. So the chorus, if we continue, is just a repeat. Lately I've been losing sleep, dreaming of the things that we could be, but baby, I've been praying hard, saying no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. So that's either a rejection of money as the currency and looking to the stars and counting what that is, or that is saying we're not going to be just counting money, we'll be counting fame and glory.
But this goes back to the reason why it's important to look at the songs that we're singing and not
Right.
just haphazardly
And how we
get
sing
into the tune.
Yeah.
Because this is the kind of song that if you're not careful,
You can ingest some very harmful,
really bad stuff. Yeah.
and
I'm not saying it's
internalize it.
bad, but yeah,
But
that's
you
it.
internalize
You're
it.
internalizing.
And if you don't internalize it correctly,
Yes.
or you internalize something that's bad, it's very bad for your soul.
Yeah.
It's deleterious.
You know, they'll you know how Satan is, he'll give you a song that's the words are so bad, but he'll put it on something where the tune
It's
is
groovy,
it's
yeah.
like going,
and it catches you.
man, that's a good tune. But you go, wait a minute, listen to those words, man.
Yeah.
That's some crappy words,
not-
man.
not
That's
good.
not. I don't
Yeah.
like that.
So
But God, that's a catchy tune, man. That'll
sticks with
catch
you.
some people.
It
man,
does.
ugh.
I feel your love and I feel it burn. Down this river, every turn, hope is our four-letter word. Make that money, watch it burn. So, again, what does that mean? Oh, take that money, watch it burn, sink in the river the lessons I learned. Take that money, watch it burn, sink in the river the lessons I've learned. That is an interesting song. I suspect I would like to claim this song because it is very bop. But because the folks at PSB cannot hear this and YouTube always copy strikes us for this, we're not playing it. If you want to go look at it, it's very catchy. But here's where I take issue. The whole music video is set to the backdrop of a charismatic church. With people singing in tongues and rolling on the floor and bouncing around, and it's all with the backdrop of this crocodile, which is kind of like an inference potentially for the devil working in the church, kind of meandering in the basement below.
See, I can't hook into this song.
That's one of those
can't.
things where it looks like there's a flirtation with Christian thought, but almost a flirtation and then a rejection.
Yes, I agree.
And so I don't know what to make of it. Maybe it's more subtle. Maybe it's even more subtle is that in the charismatic church,
Kind of like a snake slip.
there's this opportunity for preachers who don't really have people's best interest in heart, and they play on emotions. And it's really Satan is working through that part of the church to disgrace God. But maybe that's giving it too much credit. It's something that I would say, be careful what you take in.
Yes.
Careful what you take in, because especially and how you take it in, it really matters too. Truth is only well understood in the correct frame, right? If you have a diamond encrusted in mud, you may not understand the value. Truth needs to be framed in a realistic and clear framework so you understand why that's important.
Would this
Just saying that Jesus saves from sin doesn't do enough. You have to meet the person where they are so they have the clarity to understand the beauty of the gem of that truth.
would this song kind of be like a homosexual church?
No.
I don't think so.
Charismatic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Charismatic is what they're poking on. But
Yeah.
interesting. So next one, Mr. Producer. Mr. Producer had one he wanted to bring in.
Yes. Just give me one moment here. I also apologize for my voice. Like everyone, I'm struggling with some
We're just-
congestion.
And the technical difficulties earlier were the silly computer and mixer were just on the fritz before we got on. We barely got it all together before we started.
Yeah, sorry.
We had some technical challenges over here, so thank you for bearing with Mr. Producer there.
All right. So the song I chose to do today is Till You Can't by Cody Johnson. Now, any country music fans out there, like my sister, probably have heard of this guy. He's one of the probably top country artists right now. And I picked this song because when I think of like wholesome, like clean, wholesome, like non-religious songs, this is probably the one of the top ones that comes to mind. I think it has a pretty good message. It's pretty clean. It's very clear with its lyrics, unlike the previous song we looked at. There's no questioning what this song is about or what it means. So let's dive in here. First one, you can tell your old man you'll do some largemouth fishing another time. You just got too much on your plate to bait and cast a line. You can always put a rain check in his hand till you can't. Verse 2, you can keep putting off forever with that girl whose heart you hold, swearing that you'll ask someday further down the road. You can always put a diamond on her hand till you can't. And then the chorus, if you got a chance, take it. Take it while you got a chance. If you got a dream, chase it, because a dream won't chase you back. If you're going to love somebody, hold them as long and as strong and as close as you can till you can't. So let me ask y'all, is that pretty clear? Do y'all have an idea what this song is about at this point?
It's very clear.
I like simplistic, clean, thematically written songs. Yeah, this is good.
So
this is good.
I think it communicates a really good message of how you can't just put things off.
Yeah. Live with intentionality.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
You can put things off.
But it's not.
I think this
not a
song
good idea.
emphasizes the importance of remembering
You have free
there's a
will.
possibility of regret.
Yes.
You have free will. You don't have the reign over the consequences of your actions.
That's right.
Yes. Right.
I think the only issue that I've got with the song up to this point is just that first line. It just rubs me wrong.
Which
You
one?
can tell your old man you'll do some large.
Yeah, I'm not into calling my father my old man. I'm sorry.
That's
Fair
cultural
enough.
New
Fair
Yorker.
enough.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
I don't. Sorry.
That's cultural.
Yeah, down here in the South, it's
Yeah, but it's
Term of endearment down.
yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta remember
and-
Charlie's a New Yorker.
Western
And
New
New
York,
York.
Western,
Not New York. Not New York, but just New York.
We got to make that clear.
you're not a New Yorker.
No. But I'll tell you what.
You've
I
lost
don't have
control, Ryan.
anything against New York City people in general.
New Yorkers.
If I were going to be in New York City, I would want a good, well-mannered, well-knowledged New Yorker to guide me around,
Yeah, absolutely.
just like I would on any street in another city.
Keep going, Mr. Producer.
All right.
We got to hit the time.
Finishing up here. I think we lost verse 3 somehow, but we got the bridge, which is
Give
probably
us
my
the bridge.
favorite part.
It's a good bridge.
Bridge. Oh, there's verse 3.
I was going to say, I've got
I
it.
bet. Sorry, I didn't see it on the show map here I'm looking at, but there's a box of greasy parts sitting in the trunk of that 65, still waiting on you and your granddad to bring it back to life. You can always get around to fixing up that Pontiac till you can't. And then the bridge here. So take that phone call from your mama and just talk away, because you'll never know how bad you wanna till you can't someday. Don't wait on tomorrow, because tomorrow may not show. Say your sorries, your I love yous, because man, you never know.
That's good.
That is
That-
the quintessential bridge right there.
That's good.
That's
That
it.
is an amazing bridge right there.
That's good, harmless pop. You see, country pop.
Country-
it's good.
country
it's
pop.
good. It's good, harmless stuff that's fun to listen to.
Great
and it's-
messaging to
yeah,
it.
yeah. That's the stuff that we should be listening to. If you're listening to stuff that's out in the world, it should be stuff like that, not Cardi B. It's wet AP work. Stuff like that. This is
Oh, we just
good for
lost
the
our
soul.
audience.
This is
They're
good
all
for the
Cardi B
soul.
fans.
This is good for the soul.
Yes, it is. It is. It was. This song was very convicting for me, honestly, because as a teenager, I was kind of your typical teenager in the fact that like I just wanted to hang out with my friends. Like,
You're still
I
a
didn't think-
teenager, aren't you?
No, I just turned 22 yesterday.
You what?
Yes, I did.
You what?
Happy birthday to you.
Oh man,
Listen,
like my
everybody. It was Rye, the producer guy's
Rye, the
birthday
producer guy.
yesterday.
15. Folks.
Everybody needs
Yes,
to wish him
that's
happy
exactly,
birthday.
Exactly.
Rye guy.
I meant 15, not 22. No. But, I was kind of your typical teenager in the fact that I didn't think my parents were cool, didn't really want to spend time with them at all. But then I'm like, but now one thing the Lord has taught me and kind of used this song to do is that one day there will come a day where I will want to talk to my parents so badly and they won't be around to help me anymore.
Yeah.
So Don95 says this on Vaughn.live on PSB's channel. A lot of Christians, singers, do not sing the actual truth of the gospel. And
boy, there's a lot of truth there.
They don't have the
What's
truth.
funny is I think you can, you find way more truth in some of these secular songs than you do Christian songs.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we got a question about what song was that. The name of that song right there is, oops, almost got the wrong one.
Now, Mr. Producer knows. Please go.
Till You Can't
Till You Can't.
by Cody Johnson.
Good song.
Yep. So good stuff. So this has
And
been
Melissa Perry
Song Review.
says, "Happy birthday, Rye Guy."
Thank you.
Happy birthday. This has been the song review. Now we're on to the book corner, where, if you've been following with us, we're doing the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. We are entering into chapter 17. Next cut, Mr. Producer, please. So, overview. If you are just now joining us real quick, the Screw Tape Letters, what are they? Well, they're a little confusing if you don't know, but they are a summation of a bunch of letters between a couple of demons. And they are it's kind of a thought experiment of C.S. Lewis. What if Wormwood, this mentor demon, is corresponding with his younger Screw Tape and how to best tempt Wormwood's human patient, a young man in World War II era Britain. In this thread of conversation, Lewis explores the base temptations of man and how Satan and his tempters may indeed think about our own existence and how they may work to tempt the souls of man. Today's passage, we are going to look at number 17. That's my fault, guys. This is not on the church, but rather it is a focus on the usefulness of gluttony. Next cut, Mr. Producer. So in this letter, Screw Tape points to the usefulness of gluttony and the myriad of expressions of it. One does not need to eat much to be a glutton. Let's listen in to what they say, and let's hear what Lewis lays out as Screw Tape and Wormwood converse. Next cut. So, stop me anytime, guys. My dear Wormwood, this is Screw Tape, the elder demon, writing to a younger demon. The contemptuous way in which you spoke of gluttony as a means of catching souls in your last letter only shows your ignorance. One of the great achievements of the last 100 years has been to deaden the human conscience on that subject, so that by now you will hardly find a sermon preached or a conscience troubled about it in the whole length and breadth of Europe. This has largely been effected by concentrating all our efforts on gluttony of delicacy, not gluttony of excess. Your patient's mother, as I learned from the dossier, and you might have learned from Glubos, is a good example. She would be astonished one day, I hope, will be, to learn that her whole life is enslaved to this kind of sensuality, which is quite concealed from her by the fact that the quantities involved are small. You guys picking up what Lewis is putting down?
This is really interesting.
Gluttony is not necessarily excessive amounts. It's excess in sensuality. Let's continue.
Yes.
But what do quantities matter, provided we can use in human belly and palate to produce quarrelsomeness, impatience, uncharitableness, and self-concern? Glubos has this woman well in hand. She is a positive terror to hostesses and servants. Cool. She is always turning from what has been offered her to say with a demure little sigh and smile, "Oh, please, please. All I want is a cup of tea, weak but not too weak, and the teensiest weeniest bit of really crisp toast." You see? Because what she wants is smaller and less costly than what has been set before her, she never recognizes gluttony as her determination to get what she wants, however troublesome it may be to others.
She wants what she wants because she wants her wants.
And it comes at the deficit of consideration for other people.
Correct.
I've seen people say, No. Send that water back. It has too many ice cubes in it.
Oh, God.
Like, so,
Wow.
right? And it's in this, it's in this frame. And look, all of us have our little blind spots, but this is what's great about Lewis. He's looking to say, let's peel back the layer. Let's kind of bask a little bit in this for a moment. Are you so particular in your day-to-day life? And this was convicting for me. Just going to say it, the first time reading through this, I really had to sit there. This time too, I had to sit there and think, man, am I too particular about things that I don't need to be?
Wow.
Am I so particular that I'm causing other people grief unnecessarily? There are times to call the manager, okay? There are times, that's not what we're talking about here. But is this the exception that you do this, or is this your rule? Is this what you live by?
I'll tell you what, if you want to know anything about that sort of stuff, be a waiter at a restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
I was a restaurant manager for years.
I believe it, Steve. It's
Before that, I was a waiter for a number of years. And I'll tell you what,
people are like that.
man, you got no idea how particular people can be.
And that to me is
and
the ultimate in self. Really.
And that's Lewis's point: is are you seeking your own carnal pleasure especially at someone else's
Expense.
deficit?
Yes.
At their expense.
Yes.
And the thing you're talking about, too many ice cubes,
Oh yeah.
dude. I've dealt with that, and he is not kidding when he talks about
You
that.
see it all the time.
Yes.
So, at the very moment of indulging her appetite, she believes that she is practicing temperance. In a crowded restaurant, she gives a little scream at the plate, which some overworked waitress has set before her, and says, "Oh, that is far too much. Take it away and bring me about a quarter of it." If challenged, she would say she was doing this to avoid waste. In reality, she does it because the particular shade of delicacy to which we have enslaved her is offended by the sight of more food than she happens to want. The real value of the quiet, unobtrusive work, which Glubos has been doing for years on this old woman, can be gauged by the way in which her belly now dominates her whole life. The woman is in what may be called the all I want state of mind. She wants a cup of tea, properly made, or an egg, properly boiled, or a slice of bread, properly toasted. But she never finds any servant or any friend who can do these simple things, quote unquote, properly, because her quote unquote properly conceals an insatiable desire and demand for excellence and almost impossible palatable pleasures, which she imagines she remembers from the past. A past described by her as, quote, the days when you could get good servants, unquote, but known to us as the days when her senses were much more easily pleased, and she had pleasures of other kinds, which made her less dependent on those of the table. Are we being honest with what we really need versus what we really want? And are we imputing that on other people? Something to think about.
And that's interesting because our pastor's sermon was on wants and needs.
God will give you
today.
Bread.
Ooh, kind of interesting. Oh, and Cold Stills 2 says, my ex-wives were like that. And know something at Cold Still 2? So were mine.
Meanwhile, the daily disappointment
Moving right along.
produces daily ill temper. Cooks give notice and friendships are cooled. If ever the enemy introduces into her mind the faint suspicion that she is too interested in food, Glubos counters it by suggesting to her that she doesn't mind what she eats herself, but, quote, does like to have things nice for her boy, unquote. In fact, of course, her greed has been one of the chief sources of his domestic discomfort for many years. Now, your patient is his mother's son. While working your hardest quite rightly on other fronts, you must not neglect a little quiet infiltration in respect of gluttony. Being a male, he is not so likely to be caught by the, quote, all I want, unquote, camouflage. Males are best turned into gluttons with the help of their vanity. They ought to be made to think themselves very knowing about food, to pique themselves on having found the only restaurant in town where the steaks are really properly, quote unquote, cooked. What begins as vanity can then gradually be turned into habit. But however you approach it, the great thing is to bring him into the state in which denial of anyone's indulgence, it matters not which, champagne or tea, Sol Colbert or cigarettes, quote unquote, puts him out. For then his charity, justice, and obedience are all at your mercy. Mere excess in food is much less valuable than delicacy. Its chief use is as a kind of artillery preparation for attacks on chastity. On that, as on every other subject, keep your man in a condition of false spirituality. Never let him notice the medical aspect. Keep him wondering what pride or lack of faith has delivered him into your hands, when a simple inquiry into what he has been eating or drinking for the last 24 hours would show him whence your ammunition comes, and thus enable him, by a very little abstinence, to imperil your lines of communication. If he must think on the medical side of chastity, feed him the grand lie which we have made the English humans believe, that physical exercise in excess and consequent fatigue are especially favorable to this virtue. How they can believe this in the face of notorious lustfulness of sailors and soldiers may well be asked. But we use the schoolmasters to put this story about, men who were really interested in chastity as an excuse for games, and therefore recommend games as an aid to chastity. But this whole business is too large to deal with at the tail end of a letter. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape. By the way, I've noticed, I too have been at risk or on tap dancing on the line. I'm not sure if I've ever been full bore into the gluttony of promoting the place, but I definitely look back, and there have been times in my life where we're focusing on the best food, the best restaurants, the best way to cook a steak, the best way to do whatever. I can see the temptation, and I've been awfully close to that, and it's something that it's making me think a little bit about how I approach food, how I approach my own senses.
Yep. I think the one thing that I would want people to realize as we go through these letters, when you think about attacks, let's think politically for a moment. We want to know how people are going to attack the United States. Right now, it's not being done necessarily by force. It's not a lobbing of missiles here or there. It's through thought.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do we do in regards to that? We adjust our defenses. Why do we go through the Screwtape letters? Because we're being attacked spiritually. How? That's what the Screwtape letters are all about. There's a lot of different ways that Satan does it, but it allows us as Christians to think and solidify our defense. And there's so many, and when you think about this, I don't know about you, I was just thinking a moment ago, there's so many times I've sat at the table, prayed with everybody and said, Lord, thank you for the food, and then started to moan. That's shameful. It is absolutely shameful. If you're not thankful for it, shut your mouth. That's an awful vain prayer to be praying. And I think it's important to know how Satan is trying to trip us up. Yeah. What is he trying to do? What is he trying to get us to think about? Something as simple as food.
Well, and it's a perversion of the thing that's supposed to point us to the bread of life.
Yes.
Gluttony is. We want Christ our own way. maybe I'm coming to the summation a little bit too quickly here, but we're almost at the wrap up here. We want Christ our own way. We want just the way we want our food cooked a certain way.
Boy,
It
that's
has
a
to be
really good
medium.
way to say
It has
it.
to be medium rare. It has to be this or that. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm a medium rare guy all day. You cook it over that, I'm sorry, it's a little bit too much. You get to well done, you kill the dumb thing. I'm sorry.
I agree.
But
Medium
I am
rare.
I am not going to. I am going to do my best to make sure that I can deal with that with grace, because at the end of the day, Christ, and I think there is a connection here. Sometimes gluttony, especially in the sense of refined senses, kind of in a way is a reflection of our lack of gratitude for what we have, and we really need to remember that Christ gave us what we need, not necessarily what we want, and not necessarily in the quantity or the exact position. He didn't give us the job that we wanted. We may not have married the woman that we wanted. We may not have done the things in this life that we wanted. We may not have had the children that we wanted. Maybe you had all of that, and you still want more.
Yep.
All of that to say, everything, even down to the food that you eat, there is a spiritual war for the attention of your mind and your soul and your heart, and it is roaring and raging right now. And even at the dinner table, there are small victories
Yes.
and small losses
Yes.
occurring every day.
Yep.
Final thoughts, Steve?
Well, pelvic fractures, concussions, drowning, all of those items in the wild and being out, you really need to be prepared when you go out on camping trips, when you're out and away from everybody. If you're getting away, going on distances away from people or away from the public.
Buddy systems and proper
And
training.
right, make sure you're with somebody and you're prepared. You have proper medical supplies. I mean, you wouldn't believe what some people do to carry out a camp. They take horses out, or if they're going on a spike camp, you wouldn't believe how much weight they carry in a pack.
Yep.
I mean, it's unreal.
Yep.
The amount of weight that they carry just to go out and stay for a few days of hunting.
Yeah.
It's unreal. Just to be supplied properly.
Yeah.
It's like us, when we go up this bayou, we'll take 2 boats minimum, and they're full, 14-foot aluminum boats. They're full of stuff. Just to be supplied for 4 or 5 days.
Make sure you're properly prepared.
Exactly. And it takes care of a lot of problems, man.
In WFA and some of this stuff, we talk about the doctrine of 8. You want to have four sets of buddies. So if one person's injured, they have their buddy, and they have a second set of buddies with them. And you can send one set to go help. The other 4, 2 sets of buddies each to go help. That's the ideal size. You want to make sure that you're going with a group of people. If you can't have that much, at least have 2 people.
Yep.
Charlie,
I was just, I was thinking about, we made a compelling case for Hanukkah. And I think everybody, especially approaching this time of year, I hope they take some time to really think through some of the things that we've shared. We've done 3 episodes now talking about Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah,
Yep.
and very compelling arguments.
So, and someone's in the comment section says, well, I don't celebrate another religion's feasts. It's a Christian feast. Christ celebrated it. In fact,
Yes.
Christ consecrated it, prayed over it, and used it to declare his sovereignty over the world. So I would argue that Hanukkah is a Christian celebration, as
Yes.
are the feasts of God. The feasts of God are never called the feasts of the Hebrew people or the Jewish people. They're called the feasts of God. Now, do I suggest that we go and sacrifice? No, that would be anathema. Trying to do an animal sacrifice after Christ is sacrificed
Amen.
would be anathema.
Amen.
That is not what I'm suggesting. I'm saying that we remember the fulfillment. Jesus Christ is our unleavened bread, who was killed on Passover, rose again on the day of first fruits as the first fruit of the resurrection. Then on the day of Pentecost, the same day that the tablets were brought down by Moses, the Holy Spirit came down to us. I believe he'll come back on the Feast of Trumpets to judge us on the Day of Atonement and he'll come back to tabernacle, to dwell with his people
Amen.
at the end of time. At least that's what I suspect. That's what I read from the Bible. You do with it what you will. With that, we got nothing else for you.